Alien girl embarrassed. Wait, that's what humans do in bed? Kalen's head bounced off the magnetic rock, stars that weren't there exploding behind his eyes. He tasted dust and something metallic, probably his own blood. A clawed foot pressed down on his chest, armored plates the color of oxidized copper gleaming in the weak light of the desert moons. Above him, a face framed by living armor pulsed with soft, internal light. Humming throat nodes vibrated against the air, a low growl that was somehow musical. This was not how he'd planned to spend his Tuesday. He'd just been scavenging a derelict Qatar transport for salvageable tech, maybe a few fusion cells to get his rust bucket skiff running again. Instead, he found this, a Qatar warrior. And not just any Qatar, by the looks of the bioluminescent tattoos crawling across her visible skin, and the intricate humming mechanism integrated into her left arm, she was high status. Royalty. A goddamn general? Shit. Human. The voice was a resonant purr, low and full of threat, like grinding metal. You trespass on sacred ground. You defile the relics. Her grip tightened on his chest. His ribs felt like they might snap. Sacred ground? Looks like a pile of busted ship parts to me. Kalen wheezed, the sarcasm instinctive, a defense mechanism honed over years of pissing off the wrong people across the fringe. And defile? Lady, I just wanted some scrap metal. I wasn't exactly planning an orgy on your space junk. A low hum, louder this time, rumbled from her throat nodes. Her large, multifaceted eyes, deep gold with flecks of emerald, narrowed. He saw confusion flicker there for a second, quickly masked by raw aggression. Orgy? She repeated the word, mangling it slightly with her alien phonetics. Is that, Ricken, a ritual of your kind? A form of defiance? Kalen almost laughed, then thought better of it. This wasn't the time to explain human sexual practices to a heavily armed alien who had a foot on his chest.
No, not really. More like,
No, a party. With naked people. Look, can we skip the cultural exchange and just agree I leave, and you don't turn me into paste? Sound good? Her head tilted slightly, the armored plates shifting with fluid grace. You speak with insolence. Your biosignature, insignificant. Yet you do not flee. Your fear is muted. She pressed harder. Perhaps the stories are true. The humans are broken things, yet they bare their teeth. Stories? What stories? Kalen grunted, trying to twist out from under her. Useless. She was solid rock. Doesn't matter. Get off me, armor face. I need those ribs. Your weakness is evident, she stated, a hint of something, disappointment, in her tone. But you are here, on the proving sands. The elders will require demonstration. Proving sands? Elders? Demonstration? This was getting worse. He just wanted scrap. Now he was apparently part of some alien ritual. What kind of demonstration? Because if it involves sharp objects or public humiliation, I'd really like to bow out. Her eyes held his. The low hum deepened. It requires dominance, she purred. And submission. The elders demand proof of worth, claiming. You are the trespasser. You are claimed. Claimed. That didn't sound good. Kalen felt a prickle of genuine fear. Claimed? Like, you own me now? Like a pet rock? Her face was unreadable, the multiple facets of her eyes giving away nothing. Like a challenge, she corrected, her voice losing the purr and becoming sharp, commanding. You are the obstacle. The test. My worthing requires I break you, or bind you. She lifted her foot slightly, then hauled him up by the front of his torn environmental suit. The armor felt cold and hard through the worn fabric. He dangled, looking ridiculous. Bind me? Look, lady, if this is about marriage, I'm really not looking for commitment right now. Bad track record. Lots of space X's. The golden eyes flickered, a strange expression crossing her features. It wasn't anger or confusion this time. It was predatory. And something else he couldn't quite place. Curiosity? Commitment? She repeated, the word strange on her tongue. Is that part of your orgy ritual? Kalen sighed. This was going to be a long day. No. Commitment is... Look, never mind. What do you want? She dragged him across the uneven ground towards a cluster of standing magnetic rocks that pulsed with the same soft light as her armor. Relics, she'd called them. They looked more like ancient, broken spines of some colossal metallic beast, half buried in the sand. The magnetic pull here was intense, making the fine dust swirl around their feet. His internal compass was spinning uselessly. The elders observe, she said, gesturing vaguely towards the largest rock spire, which seemed to hum with a resonant energy that mirrored her own throat nodes. They demand a demonstration of Cathar dominance. You, human, will be the subject. She shoved him roughly against the rock spire. It felt warm, almost alive beneath his hand. A faint tingle ran up his arm. Subject? What kind of subject? A lab rat? A punching bag? He tried to keep his voice light, but the underlying tension was ratcheting up. This wasn't a simple mugging. This was ritual. Power, something deeply ingrained in her culture. A mate subject, she stated, the words dropping into the silence like stones. Kalen blinked. A what now? A subject for the mating proving, she clarified, as if it were the most obvious thing in the universe. The elders require I demonstrate my readiness to claim, to ensure the strength of the lineage. A foreign specimen provides a unique challenge, a greater proving. Kalen stared at her, speechless for a moment. Mating? Him? With her? He was a scrawny human scavenger. She was a walking tank of alien warrior. You want to mate with me? He asked slowly, just to be sure he understood the alien to English translation. As a proving, yes, she confirmed, her eyes fixed on his. Search. You will resist. You will challenge. And I will demonstrate dominance. It is the way of the Cathar. She leaned closer, the humming of her throat nodes intensifying. He could feel the heat radiating from her armored plates. Your struggle is part of the ritual. Your eventual surrender is the validation. Oh, sweet hell! This wasn't just about scrap metal anymore. Kalen's mind raced. Mating ritual. Dominance. Surrender. This wasn't just survival, this was weird and terrifying. Look, a dominance-prone alien lady, he started, trying to inject some of his usual irreverence, but it felt weak. Humans don't really do mating like that. It's generally more consensual and less ritualistically violent. She blinked. Consensual? Is that a Cathar term? I do not recognize it. Another misunderstanding. Great. No, it's a human term. It means both people have to agree to it, willingly, enthusiastically. Nobody gets, forced. She tilted her head again, the armored plates on her neck shifting. Agreement is demonstrated through combat, she stated, as if explaining a simple truth. Through the struggle and the claiming, the stronger claims the weaker. The weaker yields. This is agreement. This is the proving. Kellen ran a hand through his dirty hair. Okay, see? That's where our cultures diverge. For us, agreement looks more like talking. And maybe buying dinner. Definitely not wrestling till someone gives up. A low, amused hum vibrated from her. Amused? That was new. Your ways are peculiar, she purred, stepping closer. He could smell something faint but distinct from her. Not unpleasant, but alien, like ozone and hot metal. It made the short hairs on the back of his neck stand up. But perhaps the struggle of understanding itself is the true proving. She reached out a clawed hand, not to strike, but to trace the line of his jaw. The touch was surprisingly gentle, yet the claws were unnervingly sharp. He flinched, but didn't pull away entirely. You are soft, she murmured, her tone shifting again, less commanding, more curious. Your skin tears easily, your bones snap. How do your kind survive the void? We're stubborn, Kalen said dryly, and we build tougher ships. Usually, her thumb brushed over his lower lip. He could feel the faint vibration from her throat nodes through her touch. It sent a shiver down his spine that wasn't entirely fear. Stubborn, she repeated, a new hum vibrating, one that resonated deeper, seemed to echo the energy in the magnetic rocks. The elders said you would be pliable, easily broken. They were wrong. Her eyes, those unsettling multifaceted gold orbs, seemed to bore into him, searching for something. You bare your teeth, little human. Good. The proving requires resistance. It requires push to fire. She suddenly yanked him forward, pressing him flush against her armored chest. He could feel the solid, powerful frame beneath the plates, the rhythmic thrumming of her body, the heat radiating from her. His face was close to her neck, where the humming nodes vibrated strongly. It was overwhelming, alien, intensely physical. You are mine now, trespasser, she whispered, the purr back in her voice deeper, darker this time. For the proving, for the elders, you belong to Voltis. He could feel the faint, electric tingle of the magnetic rocks strengthening as she held him, seeming to amplify the resonance between them. He was trapped, held against a being who saw him as a challenge, a test, a means to an end in some bizarre alien mating ritual. And despite the fear, despite the absurdity, a spark of something else ignited within him, a defiant curiosity, a raw, physical response to the sheer, overwhelming presence of her. Belong to Voltis? Lady, I barely belong to myself, Kalen retorted, the words muffled against her armor. He felt the vibrations of her low hum against his cheek. It was weirdly soothing and utterly terrifying at the same time. And what exactly does belonging entail in this? Mating proving? Because if it involves fighting to the death, I'm severely under-equipped. She finally released him, stepping back just enough to look down at him. Her eyes scanned him, a slow, deliberate examination that made him feel like prey. It entails the bond, she said, her voice resonating with the hum, the physical demonstration of claiming. The elders require proof of my capacity to dominate, to merge strength. They expect you to be broken, yielding. She paused, her gaze lingering on his face. Your defiance is very unexpected. It complicates the ritual. Complicates things, does it? Kalen said, a wry grin playing on his lips despite the situation. Yeah, I tend to do that. It's a survival trait. Along with sarcasm, she stepped back, fully, turning towards the towering magnetic relics. The air crackled with latent energy around them. These relics resonate with the proving, she explained, gesturing with a clawed hand towards the spires. They amplify the bond. The elders believe the ancient energies guide the claiming. Ensure the strength of the union. Union? With him? This was officially the most bizarre alien abduction scenario ever. So, just to be clear, Kalen said, trying to wrap his head around it, your elders are watching us, expecting you to beat me into submission, and then mate with me, because that proves you're worthy of mating with someone else? Or is it just mating with me? Voltis turned back to him, her eyes holding a complex mix of dominance and something that looks suspiciously like annoyance. It proves I am worthy of claiming, worthy of binding, worthy of continuing the Cathar line. The subject is merely the vessel for the proving. She took a step towards him, her movements fluid and powerful. You, little human, are the challenge. You're unique. Fragility and defiance make you a difficult one. A proving worthy of my status. She reached for him again, this time gripping his arm. The armored plates felt hard, cold, and strong. The ritual must commence. The elders wait. She began dragging him towards the center of the cluster of relics. The ground vibrated slightly underfoot, the magnetic pull intensifying. Kalen stumbled, trying to keep up. Okay, hold on. Before we start this dominance, cuddle fight, can we maybe talk about the union part? Because I'm pretty sure interspecies compatibility isn't a given. And frankly, I'm not really built for wrestling a land battleship. She stopped, looking down at his arm in her grip. Her humming nodes vibrated faster, a slightly higher pitch now. Compatibility is proven through the claiming, she stated, utterly literal. The bond forms from dominance and resonance. The relics ensure it. She pulled him forward again. He dug his heels in, trying to resist, but it was like trying to stop a freight train. No, I mean literally, Kalen insisted. Like human anatomy versus Cathar anatomy. Different plumbing, different everything. It might not. They'll work the way you expect. Her multifaceted eyes studied him, a flicker of confusion returning. Not plenty work. How can dominance fail to work? Voltis stopped dead, her grip on Kalen's arm tightening reflexively. The hum from her throat nodes dropped in pitch, a low, questioning sound. Fail to work? She repeated, the alien phonetics making the human phrase sound even more bizarre. The act of claiming is the demonstration of power. Power always works. You yield, I dominate. This is the proving. Kalen winced. This was the awkward sexual misunderstanding part he'd been dreading. Right. But, let's just say, hypothetically, the claiming part involves physical, intimacy. The mechanics might be different. For humans, it's not just about one side dominating the other. There's a participation, reciprocity. Things have to, fit. He made a vague, fumbling gesture with his free hand. Voltis stared at him, her golden eyes wide and unreadable for a moment. The low hum from her throat nodes ceased entirely. Silence fell between them, broken only by the faint, resonant thrumming of the magnetic relics and the swirling desert dust. Then, slowly, a new hum began. Hesitant at first, then rising in intensity, a higher, sharper note than before. Was that, then, embarrassment? On a fierce Cathar warrior? Reciprocity? She finally said, the word clearly alien to her concept. Participation? You mean, the claim, acts? It is not merely, to surrender? Kalen sighed internally. This was going exactly as weirdly as he expected. Yeah, it's kind of a two-way street, usually. I mean, there are variations, obviously, but the standard model involves cooperation, mutual. It's an effort. He felt himself blushing. Explaining human sex to an alien who thought it was a dominance ritual was surprisingly difficult. Voltis released his arm, stepping back. She looked less like a fearsome warrior and more like a confused young adult. Her multifaceted eyes were still fixed on him, but the predatory intensity was gone, replaced by a searching, almost vulnerable curiosity. The elders did not instruct on the reciprocity, she murmured, half to herself. The texts describe only the act of proving, of breaking the subject, claiming the yield. She looked back at him, a new look in her eyes. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was intrigue. You say humans do not merely dominate, that the claim participates? Yeah, Kalen confirmed, feeling slightly less terrified, though still wary. We call it making love, or sex, or a bunch of other things, but it involves, both people doing stuff together. He paused, considering, unless it's a really bad date. Another low hum vibrated from her, this one even more complex. A mix of confusion, dawning comprehension. Making love, she repeated. Sex. You do not prove dominance. Well, sometimes, Kalen admitted with a shrug. There are power dynamics sometimes, sure. But it's not the main point. The main point is pleasure, connection, feeling good together. He saw the wheels turning behind her multifaceted eyes. His frankness, his description of sex as mutual pleasure rather than dominance, was clearly challenging her fundamental cultural understanding. This wasn't in the elder's script. She stepped closer again. But this time there was no aggression, only intent curiosity. Her hand reached out again, but instead of gripping him, her fingers brushed lightly against his arm, tracing the fabric of his suit. The humming from her throat nodes was soft now, almost a purr of fascination. Pleasure, she whispered, the words sounding alien and exotic on her tongue. Connection. This is what humans do. In bed? Voltis stared at Kalen, her gold eyes wide with a mix of confusion and intense fascination. The humming from her throat nodes was a soft, resonant buzz that seemed to fill the space between them. Wait, she said, her voice low, losing its commanding edge. That's what humans do in bed. Kaelin nodded slowly, still slightly bewildered by the abrupt shift in her demeanor. From terrifying warrior to the bewildered student of human anatomy and relationships. Yeah, more or less. I mean, variations apply. But that's the general idea. Less dominance. More delightful, mutual awkwardness. He added the last part under his breath, but she heard it. Awkwardness, she echoed, tilting her head. Why would proving claiming cause awkwardness? Well, not the proving part, Kaelin explained. The making love part. Sometimes things don't line up perfectly, or someone says something stupid, or you bump heads. It's not always smooth and aggressive like your mating proving sounds. She considered this, her humming deepening in pitch. She reached out, her clawed fingers brushing against his chest, right where her foot had been moments ago. Her touch now felt feather-light, exploring the texture of his suit, the contours of his chest. It was incredibly intimate, sending shivers down his spine. Your ways are illogical, she murmured, her eyes fixed on him. Pleasure is a byproduct of victory. Connection is forged in the yielding. How can it be? Is mutual? Kaelin shrugged. Different strokes, I guess. Look, is this still the mating proving? Because I'm getting mixed signals here. One minute you're gonna break me, the next you're asking me about human dating practices. A low, rumbling hum vibrated through her chest. He felt it against his fingertips where he'd braced himself against her. The proving requires I demonstrate dominance, she stated, but her voice lacked its former conviction. The elders watch. They expect the ritual. She looked towards the tallest relic spire, which pulsed with a stronger light now, as if sensing her hesitation. But your description is intriguing. It suggests a deeper complexity than our texts describe. She looked back at him, her eyes locking onto his. Show me, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper that resonated with the humming. Show me this human way. This making love. Kaelin's jaw dropped slightly. Here? Now? With the elders watching? Yes, she said simply, her hand moving from his chest to his jaw, cupping it gently. Her touch was surprisingly warm now, the heat radiating through her armored plates. The proving requires interaction, physicality. You are the subject. Show me. Demonstrate your reciprocity. This was insane. Utterly, completely, batshit insane. An alien warrior princess was asking him, a scruffy human scavenger, to give her a demonstration of human sex as part of her species mating ritual, under the watchful eyes of her spectral elders. All right, look, Kaelin said, trying to regain some control of the situation. This isn't something you can just show. It's complicated, and maybe not possible with meek or anatomical differences. Voltis leaned closer, her scent, ozone and hot metal, and something else. Something uniquely hers, filling his senses. The humming intensified, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to pull at something deep inside him. The relics resonate, she purred, her eyes glowing faintly with their own internal light. They amplify the bond. The ancient energies guide the merging. If there is a way, the proving will reveal it. Her free hand reached down, her fingers trailing along his side, exploring the curve of his hip. He sucked in a sharp breath. The physical tension, which had briefly dissipated, snapped back, sharper than ever. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was raw. Alien desire mixed with ritualistic intent. She wanted to understand, and she intended to understand by experiencing it through him. Voltis's touch was electric, sending a jolt through Kaelin he hadn't expected. Her fingers, tipped with sharp claws, traced along his hip, setting his nerves alight. The humming from her throat nodes deepened, a resonant sound that vibrated not just in the air, but seemed to echo within his bones. He felt a strange pressure behind his eyes, a faint thrumming that mirrored hers. The magnetic relics around them pulsed with brighter light, the ground vibrating beneath his feet. It was as if the environment itself was reacting to the escalating tension between them. The proving demands physicality, Voltis murmured, her voice husky with the deep hum. You resist. You fascinate. Show me the human truth of this. Pleasure. She leaned in, her face close to his. He could see the intricate patterns of bioluminescent tattoos glowing faintly beneath the edges of her armor plating, pulsing in time with the hum. Her multifaceted eyes, once cold and commanding, were now alight with an intense, searching fire. This wasn't just a test of dominance anymore. This was a profound, alien need to understand something utterly foreign to her. Kellen swallowed hard. His initial fear was still there, a knot in his gut, but it was now tangled with a potent mix of raw physical attraction and the sheer dizzying weirdness of the situation. He was a scavenger, meant to be scrapped. Now he was the subject of an alien warrior's existential sexual crisis. Okay, he said, his voice a little shaky. Okay, if the elders want a show, let's give them a show. But you gotta understand, this isn't like fighting. It's Luda different. She watched him, her humming a steady, expectant sound. Different, she repeated. Show me the difference. Her hands moved, one reaching for his belt, the other finding the back of his neck, her touch surprisingly firm, guiding him closer. There was no aggression now, only a powerful, focused intent. She wasn't forcing him. Not exactly. But she was guiding, pulling him into her orbit with an irresistible force that went beyond physical strength. He felt a heat building between them, not just from her armored plates, but from something deeper, a raw, biological resonance amplified by the humming relics. His own body was betraying him, responding to her alien presence with a primal urgency he couldn't control. Her head tilted, and she pressed her forehead against his, the armored plates cool against his skin, but the contact intimate, resonant. The humming intensified, a shared vibration that seemed to bridge the gap between their disparate forms. Resonate, she whispered, the word echoing in his mind. Not just spoken, but felt. The bond begins. And then, she kissed him. Her lips were unexpectedly soft beneath the harder material of her facial plating, yet there was a firmness, a heat that took his breath away. It was an alien kiss, tentative yet possessive, a question and a claim, all in one. His mind reeled. He was kissing an alien warrior princess on a magnetic desert world, surrounded by glowing relics, as part of a bizarre mating ritual cultural exchange. This was officially the wildest Tuesday of his life. His hands, almost on autopilot, found her waist, exploring the strange, segmented structure beneath her armor. She responded to his touch, the humming intensifying, her body pressing closer. This wasn't a fight ending in surrender. This was something else entirely. The kiss deepened, becoming less tentative, more primal. Voltus explored his mouth with a strange, alien curiosity that was intensely arousing. Her lips were pliable, responsive, a startling contrast to her armored exterior. The humming between them escalated, a powerful, vibrating current that seemed to flow from her throat nodes into his very core. He felt the pressure behind his eyes intensify, and a soft, golden light bloomed at the edge of his vision, pulsing in sync with the relics in her hum. This wasn't just physical contact. It was an energetic merging, a resonance that felt both foreign and thrilling. She tasted like ozone and something sweet, something utterly alien. His hands, still on her waist, explored the surprisingly flexible plating, finding warm, smooth skin beneath. He pulled her tighter against him, his body reacting with a desperate need that overwhelmed his fear. This was the proving, not of her dominance over him, but of something else, a shared intensity, a mutual exploration of the boundary between their species. Her hands moved, shedding some of the lighter armor plates on her forearms with a soft click, revealing skin covered in glowing, intricate tattoos that pulsed with the same golden light as the relics. She guided his hands to her exposed skin, her body trembling slightly with the intensity of the resonance. Her skin was smooth, surprisingly warm, and the glowing tattoos felt like raised, pulsing energy lines under his fingertips. This wasn't just sex. It was a sensory overload, a dance between alien and human biology guided by ancient, resonant energies. This is reciprocity, she murmured against his lips, her voice thick with a hum. This are merging? Yeah, Kalen breathed, his mind hazy with sensation. Something like that. She pulled back slightly, her eyes glowing now with the amplified energy, locking onto his. There was no confusion in them now, only fierce, focused desire and the same consuming curiosity. Show me the rest, she commanded, the familiar tone back, but softer, laced with anticipation. Show me the human proving. Making love, she led him deeper into the cluster of relics, the ground glowing faintly under their feet. The air thrummed with power. Here, in the heart of the proving sands, surrounded by the watchful energy of the elders and the pulsing light of the ancient relics, Voltis began to shed more of her armor. It wasn't vulnerability, but a deliberate unveiling, an invitation into the core of her alien physicality. Beneath the segmented plates was a body that was both familiar in its structure, curves, planes, limbs, and utterly alien. Skin the color of burnished copper, etched with glowing, intricate tattoos that shifted and pulsed with inner light. Humming nodes visible on her neck, vibrating rapidly now, he felt a sense of awe, of stepping into something ancient and powerful. She reached for the fastenings on his suit, her movements swift and decisive. He offered no resistance. He was captivated, lost in the raw intensity of the moment, the overwhelming alienness of her presence, the intoxicating hum that resonated deep within him. As his own skin was exposed to the magnetic, resonant energy of the proving sands, he felt a strange, tingling sensation, a warmth spreading across his chest. Voltis's eyes tracked the subtle shift in his skin, the faint luminescence that seemed to awaken beneath his surface. The relics mark the resonance, she whispered, tracing a line across his chest with a glowing fingertip. It left a faint, shimmering trail that quickly faded. The bond forms. She pulled him close again, her body pressing against his. The difference in their forms was evident, but the resonance was a powerful bridge, a force that seemed to mold them together, aligning disparate anatomies with surprising ease. His hands found their way to her glowing tattoos, tracing the paths of light across her back and hips. She arched into his touch, a low, guttural sound escaping her throat nodes, a sound that was raw, primal, and intensely erotic. This wasn't a fight, but it was a struggle against the ingrained fear, against the sheer foreignness of it all, against the overwhelming wave of sensation that crashed over him, as Voltis, the alien warrior, guided him through her version of the proving, transformed by his description of human intimacy. It was dominance, yes, in the sheer power of her presence and the force of the ancient ritual, but it was also, bewilderingly, reciprocity, a shared pulsing energy that bound them together in the heart of the alien desert. The resonance built a powerful, vibrating current flowing between Kalen and Voltis, amplified by the magnetic relics that pulsed around them with blinding intensity. Her humming was a constant, low thrum that resonated deep within his bones, vibrating in sync with the light blooming under his own skin. Faint, shimmering lines that mirrored the patterns of her tattoos. This wasn't just physical contact, it was an energetic merging, guided by ancient forces he couldn't comprehend. Voltis moved with a fierce, deliberate grace, shedding the last of her upper armor, revealing her full, alien form, powerful limbs, a sleek, muscular torso, covered in the shifting, glowing patterns of her bioluminescent tattoos, and the prominent, vibrating throat nodes that controlled the resonant hum. She was breathtakingly, terrifyingly beautiful, her eyes still blazing with amplified light, locked onto his. This is the proving, she stated, her voice a low, powerful purr that vibrated through him. The ultimate claim, the joining of strengths. She guided him, her hands strong and certain, bridging the anatomical differences with an instinctual understanding born of the resonant energy. It was strange, intense, and utterly consuming. He felt the pressure behind his eyes build to an almost unbearable point, the golden light intensifying, blurring his vision. His body moved in response to hers, guided by the powerful current flowing between them. He was no longer just Kalen, the scavenger. He was a part of this ancient ritual, a vessel for the merging of energies, human form intertwined with alien power. Her humming rose in pitch, becoming a high resonant keen that echoed off the magnetic relics. He felt a jolt, like a lightning strike, as the connection between them reached its peak. His own body hummed in response, the faint light under his skin flaring brightly for a terrifying second. He cried out, a mix of pain and release. As the energy climaxed, Voltus's head fell back, her throat nodes vibrating furiously, a powerful guttural cry escaping her lips. She shuddered against him, the glowing tattoos on her body pulsing violently before settling into a steady, soft glow. As the intense resonance faded, leaving behind a warm, throbbing exhaustion, Kalen felt a new sensation. A faint shimmering pattern, like a simplified version of Voltus's glowing tattoos, appeared on his chest, just over his heart. It wasn't ink, but light embedded beneath his skin, pulsing softly, in time with his heartbeat. He looked down at it, stunned. What is this? He breathed. Voltus, still wrapped around him, lifted her head. Her eyes were softer now, the intense light fading, leaving behind the deep gold with emerald flecks. She looked at the mark on his chest, then back at him. The bond mark, she whispered, her voice husky. The resonance made it manifest. It signifies the claiming, the joining. She pulled back slightly, the humming from her throat nodes now a low, steady purr. Her expression was complex, a mix of satisfaction, exhaustion, and something that looked remarkably like dawning realization. She looked at the mark on his chest, then at him, then back at the mark. Then, a wave of something he couldn't quite place washed over her face. Her eyes widened slightly, the low hum from her throat nodes hitched. Wait, she said, her voice barely a whisper, laced with disbelief. That's what humans do. In bed? The full weight of the experience, the reciprocity, the pleasure, the mutual participation he'd described, seemed to hit her all at once, contrasting sharply with the Cathar concept of ritualistic dominance and yielding. She looked utterly, wonderfully, mortifyingly embarrassed. Voltus scrambled back from him, looking as though she'd just accidentally hugged a sentient space slug. The sudden movement snapped the fragile intimacy the resonance had created. Her eyes, no longer glowing, were wide, darting between him and the faintly pulsing bond mark on his chest. Her breathing was rapid, the air hissing faintly through her segmented facial plates. The low hum from her throat nodes was gone, replaced by a frantic, clicking sound. The bond mark, she repeated, her voice higher now, almost panicked. It should not. It signifies the claiming, but that was not the proving. Kalen, still reeling from the intensity of the resonance and the shock of the mark, stared at her. Not the proving? What the hell was it then? Because it sure felt like something significant happened. She shook her head, the armored plates on her neck shifting in agitation. The proving is dominance. It is the subject broken, yielding to the strength of the claimant. You did not yield. You participated. She gestured wildly between them, her eyes fixed on the bond mark and the mark. It should appear on the claimant to signify the victory, not on the subject. Kalen looked down at the pulsing light on his chest. So, I accidentally claimed you by having sex with you the human way? This seemed to make her even more agitated. Accidentally? Claiming is not accidental. It is a deliberate act of power. She paced away from him, her movements jerky, radiating a powerful energy that felt like confused rage. The magnetic relic seemed to dim slightly, as if disappointed by the turn of events. The elders, they witnessed this. This unexpected reciprocity. This non-yielding. What will they say? Kalen got to his feet, feeling shaky but strangely exhilarated, despite the looming threat of alien elders. They'll say you had a really weird mating proving. Look, maybe this is a good thing. It broke the mold. Showed them the color way isn't the only way to make a connection. She stopped pacing, whirling to face him. Her eyes narrowed, the brief moment of embarrassment gone, replaced by cold fury. Connection forged in confusion is weakness, she spat, the clicking sound returning to her throat nodes. The bond mark proves nothing. If the proving invalid, suddenly, the largest relic spire pulsed with a blinding flash of light, a low, resonant hum, much deeper and more powerful than Vultus's, filled the air. Callan felt a chill run down his spine. The elders, they were communicating, making their displeasure known. Vultus flinched, her body tensing. She turned towards the relic spire, her posture rigid, radiating defiance mixed with trepidation. The air crackled with energy. Vultus of the Cathar, a voice boomed, not through sound waves but directly into Kalen's mind, cold and ancient. You have corrupted the proving. You have allowed the subject to dictate the ritual. The mark is a perversion. Vultus stood tall, facing the spire. He did not yield, elders, she stated, her voice resonating with defiance. But he did not break. He partnered. The resonance was strong, stronger than expected. Strength comes from dominance, not chaotic merging, the voice in Kalen's mind retorted. You have failed the proving. The claim is invalid. The bond is a mockery. Vultus's shoulders slumped slightly, then straightened again. The bond is manifest, she said, touching the area on her chest, where her own bond mark, or perhaps the reciprocal part of his, likely pulsed. It is not a mockery if the resonance is true. The resonance was flawed, the elder's voice boomed. Influenced by the subject's alien perversions, the bond must be severed. The subject, eliminated. Kalen's blood ran cold. Eliminated. Severed. Vultus's voice was sharp, laced with a raw defiance Kalen hadn't heard before. She faced the towering relic spire, her body language radiating challenge despite the elder's terrifying pronouncement. The bond is of the resonance, amplified by the relics themselves. You cannot sever what the proving sands have forged. The voice in Kalen's mind boomed again, colder, more powerful. The proving was corrupted by your weakness, Vultus. By allowing the subject's alien customs to interfere, the mark on the human is a stain. He must be purged to cleanse the ritual. Kalen felt a prickle of fear, a deep, instinctual need to run. But looking at Vultus, at the fierce, protective stance she'd taken despite her earlier embarrassment and confusion, he stood his ground. He touched the faintly pulsing mark on his chest. It felt warm, comforting, strangely anchoring. Hey, Kalen yelled, addressing the glowing spire and whatever ancient entities were watching. Hold on a damn minute. If this mark means something, it means we did something. Maybe your rituals are just outdated. Maybe you need some reciprocity, yourselves. Silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the swirling sand and the low hum of the relics. The elder's voice, when it returned, was slow, chillingly calm. Insolence. The mark on you, human, is a glyph of claiming, a perversion of the sacred Kikdar bond. It signifies that you have attempted to claim a Kikdar warrior, an abomination. Kalen blinked. Wait, I claimed her? But she's the one who dragged me out here and said she was going to break me. Vultus looked back at him, a flicker of that earlier confusion returning to her eyes. He speaks truth, elders, she said, addressing the spire. I initiated the proving. I sought to claim dominance. Yet, the mark manifested on him. A consequence of the ritual's corruption, the elder's voice stated. The subject's alien presence and his reciprocity twisted the natural order. The mark signifies the attempted claim, and the audacity of the attempt demands punishment. For both of you. The air around the tallest relic spire began to crackle with raw energy. The ground trembled. Kalen felt a strong, invisible force beginning to pull him towards the spire, an undeniable magnetic force. They mean to disintegrate you, Vultus said, her voice grim, and me with you for allowing it. She turned fully towards the spire, standing between Kalen and the intensifying energy. "No," she stated, her voice resonating with renewed power. "The proving stands. The bond, however flawed, is real. I will not allow you to break what the resonance has made." The elder's voice grew louder, more furious. "Step aside, Voltus. Your defiance is treason. You have shamed the lineage." Voltus ignored them. She reached back, taking Kalen's hand. Her clawed fingers intertwined with his, her touch firm and grounding. The bond mark on his chest pulsed brighter, mirroring the faint glow on her own hand where their skin met. The humming between them, the resonance surged back, stronger than before, a defiant pulse against the elder's power. "The proving is not complete," Voltus declared, her voice ringing with authority. "The strength of the bond must be tested, not by mere dominance, but by shared trial, by survival." She looked at Kalen, her golden eyes burning with a fierce light. "Human," she said, her grip tightening on his hand. "Your kind's stubbornness, your reciprocity, it has changed the ritual. We face the elder's wrath now. Together, the bond mark demands it." Kalen met her gaze, a slow grin spreading across his face despite the danger. "Guess I'm stuck with you then, huh? Bonded by accidental sexual claiming and pissed off alien ghosts. Couldn't ask for a weirder Tuesday." Voltus didn't smile, but the intensity in her eyes softened slightly, acknowledging his strange blend of sarcasm and acceptance. The air crackled around them, the magnetic pull towards the pulsing relic spire growing stronger. Dust swirled violently, whipped into a frenzy by the building energy. "The elders will unleash the guardians," she stated, her voice low and steady despite the chaos. "Ancient constructs, programmed to cleanse the sands of impurities. They see the bond mark, the corrupted ritual. They see us as impurities." Kalen looked around at the swirling dust, squinting against the wind. "Guardians, huh? Great. Just when I thought this couldn't get any more complicated. So, plan B? Or is it just stand here and get disintegrated?" Voltus pulled him closer, standing shoulder to shoulder with him, facing the spire. Her armored plates felt solid and reassuring against his side. The bond mark on his chest pulsed in sync with hers, a steady, warm beat against the rising storm of energy. "Plan B is survival," she said. "The proving demands strength. We demonstrate it by enduring, by fighting what they send." She raised her free hand, her clawed fingers spreading wide. The glowing tattoos on her arm pulsed with power, and a low, resonant hum emanated from her throat nodes, not a purr this time, but a steady, defiant tone. The magnetic relics around them responded, their light intensifying, the ground vibrating. It felt like Voltus was drawing energy from the sands, from the ancient relics, channeling it through herself, through their shared bond. The energy pulling Kalen towards the spire lessened, replaced by a powerful, anchoring force that seemed to radiate from Voltus, from their connected hands, from the pulsing bond marks. "They rely on my inherent Kythar dominance," she explained quickly, raising her voice over the wind. "To sever the bond, they must overcome my will, break my connection to the proving sands. But the connection is shared now, amplified by your reciprocity. By the bond mark, a section of the towering relic spire detached, not falling, but hovering in the air, shimmering with energy. From within, the swirling dust around it forms began to coalesce, large angular constructs of magnetic rock and pulsing light, humming with the same chilling resonance as the elder's voice. Guardians, several of them, they moved with an unnatural, jerky grace, their glowing eyes fixing on Kassan, on the pulsing mark on his chest. "Looks like the elders are really committed to this cleansing idea," Kalen muttered, but there was no fear in his voice now, only a grim determination. He was bonded, marked, and standing shoulder to shoulder with an alien warrior princess, against her pissed-off ancestral spirits and their rock golems. It was insane, but strangely, it felt right. Voltus squeezed his hand. "Your human stubbornness," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. "It is not weakness." She turned to face the approaching guardians, her stance wide, radiating power, "We fight," she declared, her voice a ringing challenge that cut through the wind and the hum of the guardians. "We show them the strength of the unexpected bond, the power of reciprocity." As the first guardian lunged forward, its magnetic claws crackling with energy, Voltis met it head-on. She moved with blinding speed, a flash of copper armor and glowing tattoos, deflecting its attack with a force field generated by her armored arm, amplified by the resonance flowing between her and Kalen. He wasn't a fighter, not like her, but he wasn't useless. The bond mark pulsed hotter on his chest, and he felt an influx of energy, a heightened awareness. He saw openings, weaknesses in the Guardian's construct that he wouldn't have noticed before. He used his knowledge of derelict tech, of weak points in energy systems. "Their core," he yelled over the noise, pointing to a section of pulsing light deep within the Guardian's form. "Hit the core. Disrupt the magnetic field." Voltis glanced at him, a spark of understanding in her eyes. This was the reciprocity. His knowledge, her strength, their combined resonance. She shifted her attack, focusing on the point he indicated, her powerful blows amplified by the energy surging through their bond. The Guardian staggered, its form flickering before collapsing into a pile of inert magnetic rock. One down, several more to go. The Elder's hum intensified, a sound of pure, ancient fury. They were adapting. The remaining Guardians changed tactics, their movements more fluid, their attacks coordinated. Voltis and Kalen fought back to back, a strange, unlikely pair. The warrior princess and the human scavenger, their bond forged in accidental ritual and sexual misunderstanding, fighting for survival against ancestral wrath on a magnetic desert world. The resonance pulsed between them. Shared lifeline, a testament to the power of the unexpected, the chaotic, the gloriously illogical. And in the heat of battle, facing oblivion together, Kalen felt a surge of something deeper than just survival instinct. This alien warrior, with her confusing rituals, her commanding presence, her surprising vulnerability and fierce loyalty, had claimed him, and in their strange human way, he had claimed her back. The fight against the Guardians was a blur of crackling energy, grinding rock, and a constant, resonant hum that flowed between Kalen and Voltis. They moved as one, his shouted tactical observations guiding her devastating attacks. The bond mark on his chest burned, not with pain but with amplified power, feeding into Voltis, allowing her to deflect energy blasts and shatter magnetic constructs that should have been impervious. He wasn't just standing beside her, he was a part of her power, a crucial link in the circuit their strange bond had created. As the last Guardian dissolved into swirling dust, leaving them breathless and battered, the relic spire went silent. The terrifying hum of the Elders ceased. The air was still, the wind dying down. Only the low, steady pulse of the relics remained, and the warm thrumming of their bond marks. Voltis turned to him, her chest heaving, sweat glistening on her copper-colored skin where her armor had been shed or damaged. Her eyes, though no longer blazing, still held an intense light as she looked at him, at the pulsing mark on his chest. "You fought," she said, stating the obvious, but her voice was filled with a quiet wonder. "You were not broken. You were my strength." Kalen grinned, wiping sweat and dust from his brow. "Yeah, turns out reciprocity is pretty good in a fight too." "Who knew?" A faint, almost imperceptible hum vibrated from her throat nodes. It wasn't a command, or a threat, or even confusion. It was soft, vulnerable. "The Elders are silent," she murmured, looking towards the spire. "They did not sever the bond. They could not." "Guess your corrupted ritual was stronger than their pure one," Kalen said. He reached out, his fingers tracing the faintly glowing lines on his chest. The mark felt like a part of him now. "So, what now, bonded by accident alien warrior princess? Did we have passed the proving?" Voltis looked back at him, her multifaceted eyes searching his face. The ferocity was still there, the inherent dominance of her species, but it was tempered now with something new: respect, curiosity, and the lingering, complex emotion he'd recognized as embarrassment. The proving was defied, she corrected. The ritual was transformed. The elders, they are challenged. Their authority over the bond, Dantes questioned. She stepped closer, reaching out a hand, her fingers tracing the lines of the bond mark on his chest. Her touch sent a jolt of warmth through him, a confirmation of the connection. You were meant to be the subject, the claim, the broken vessel. Instead, she looked from the mark on him to her own hand, which bore a faint reciprocal glow. Instead, you became the partner, the claimant. Dake reciprocator. She looked back up at him, her gaze holding his. The Cathar way is dominance, she said, her voice low. Sexual victory proves worth claiming is survival. But you showed me another way. She paused, the low hum returning to her throat nodes. A resonant sound of contemplation. This making love. It is not the way of my people. It is illogical, chaotic. But the bond, it is strong, stronger than I could have forged through dominance alone. Kalen covered her hand with his, pressing it gently against his chest over the pulsing mark. Maybe illogical and chaotic aren't always bad things, he said softly. Maybe sometimes the strongest bond isn't about one person breaking the other, but about two people finding something together, even if you didn't expect it. Voltus held his gaze. The vulnerability he'd glimpsed earlier was more evident now, mixed with a fierce protectiveness. The elders will not forget this defiance, she warned, her voice serious. They will seek to reassert their authority, to break the bond they could not sever. Then we face them, Kalen said, squeezing her hand. Together, you and me, the warrior and the scavenger, bonded by awkward sex and pissed-off ancestors. Sounds like an adventure? A flicker of something akin to a smile touched Voltus's lips, a rare and potent sight. The low hum from her throat nodes intensified, a sound that felt less like a threat and more like contentment. An adventure, she echoed, looking out across the silent, dust-swept sands, towards the glowing horizon where the twin moons hung low. Yes, an unexpected adventure. The bond mark on Kalen's chest pulsed steadily, a warm, reassuring light against the cool desert air, a permanent reminder of the alien warrior who had claimed him as a subject for her mating ritual, only to find herself claimed by the bewildering, illogical power of human reciprocity. And Kalen, the scavenger who just wanted scrap metal, knew his life was irrevocably changed. He was no longer just a lone human adrift in the galaxy. He was bonded to a Cathar warrior on the proving sands. And somehow, despite everything, the thought didn't terrify him as much as it should have. It felt like a beginning.